Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Bruce, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about splashy Hoyas versus silver Hoyas, if they're the same thing, if they're not. So I actually threw up a question on Hoya Haven because it's been one of those topics where it's like, if it looks silver, then it's more likely to be splash, but then how splashy does it need to be for it to be considered silver? But it's also, is splash something that we could actually consider as a, uh, I guess as a cultivar, similar to variegated plants. So it's like, if you have Hoya Hoischkiliana variegata, you have the variegata at the very end. And so I actually had to relook at what a cultivar was. And so essentially, a cultivar is basically anything that we have to do to try to maintain the plant that is not a natural variety. And so what a variety then is it's something that naturally occurs through natural selection, depending on where it grows from. And from there, you get your different variations of, let's say, Philodendron verrucosums, where you have the El Choco Red, you have the Tambeo, you have all these other descriptors of what that type of verrucosum is because of its physical traits that naturally occurred. So when it comes to splashiness, one of the difficult things is you cannot say Obovata splash, but you can say Hoya carnosa gray ghost, and that's its own cultivar, and it has all this silver on it that you could technically consider as splash. It just has a lot of splash on it. Same thing with the Hoya Michelle. It's like you have the Hoya Michelle, but you cannot say splash with it. But the splashier it is, the more that it sells, because the more silver or this creamier color it has. And so it got me really thinking. It's like, okay, so we have species like the H074, the Argentina or Argentia Princess, Argentia Picta, the Nova Ghost, Nova whatever have you, whatever splash is out there that's silver, whatever. You have the Polynera regular green form, and then you have the Polynera Broget or the Broget, and then you have the Hoya Polynera silver. And so the Broget and the silver, essentially, they look like the exact same plants. Well, ish. It all depends on how much splashiness it has or how much silver it has for the Broget to jump up to silver or for the silver to drop back down to Broget. So after I posted that question, it kind of annoyed me a little bit, not gonna lie, because I got into a debate with somebody, and I'm like, well, is it genetic or is it not? If it's genetic, then shouldn't it be a descriptor, kind of like variegata? And if it's not genetic, then I completely understand. But then you have cultivars like the ones I said before, where you have the Grey Ghost, the Nova Ghost, the Argentia Princess, and all those other species. And so what they were saying is that it does not become a cultivar unless you're able to actually grow it. And so while I understand that, you do not have variegated plants from seeds. Period. Genes are conserved throughout species. So unless there's something that I missed along the way, unless there's a certain species that you're able to grow from a seed and then develops from that seed to be a variegated version, there is no variegated plants that come from seeds. And so at that point, it's like, okay, so is that technically a cultivar or not? Because what this person just said is that it has to be grown from a seed in order for it to be its own cultivar. And so it threw me off with the whole definitions of cultivar and variety. And so I was actually able to talk to a really amazing person last night. Her name was Anna, and we started talking a little bit about splashiness in silver and like if it could be considered as a descriptor and everything and all these other details. She kind of showed me around and everything too, which is pretty amazing because she has a lot of Hoyas. But what I wanted to come down to say is what we came down to is that splash is genetic. And the reason why I say that is because let's take some of the Hoyas that you can sun stress. So let's say um, the Hoya Sunrise, which is a hybrid between the Hoya Rebecca and the Hoya Obscura. Well, if you look at Obscura, the Hoya Obscura doesn't get any splashiness either. The Sunrise doesn't get any splashiness. The Sipitangensis is one that can get sun stress, but doesn't get splashiness, as far as I've seen, anyways. Or like the same thing with the Hoya Panchoy or the Hoya Carmelite. Those are all Hoyas that are able to get sun stress, but they don't get the splashiness. And so it seems like there's a certain level of degree to which species are able to get the splashiness with sun versus other species where they just get sun stressed or they just don't get that splashiness at all. And so it kind of comes down to other species too, where it's all like, yeah, we kind of talked about this, but the Hoya Pottsii, for some reason, sometimes it loses its splashiness like that. But other species like the Grey Ghost or the H074 or this Mystery ID Hoya, which is sold as a Wilbur Graves, but because it's not as short and stump and stubby as the regular Wilbur Graves, it's a no ID plant. It could honestly be a hybrid. But with that being said, if it's a hybrid, then that means that splashiness has to come from somewhere. You see what I'm saying? And so it just seems like splashiness is not just an air bubble. Splashiness seems to be actual genetic. And unless there's some sort of genetic sequencing out there that could tell us whether splashiness is related to genes or not, or if there's a certain level of degree between splashiness and silver, we just have to, I'm just going off of this assumption that splash is silver and silver/splash is the same thing and they are genetic. So I guess TLDR is that splash is the same thing as silver. So certain species are able to maintain it better than others. Silver is like variegation to where it's lost, and it's all genetic. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Hey! But yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to say. And I mean, feel free to disagree with me or feel free to like discuss that with me either over Instagram or under the comments down below, because it is something that is kind of talked about, but it's not really talked about. As in, I know that it's been a dying question from a lot of people, but it's also like, to what extent can we actually say that splash is silver if they are the same thing? But yeah, that is all that I have for you guys today. Something to ponder about. It's just, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and feel free to debate with me. I would really love to know, even if I do get a little bit annoyed or if like I have to step away from the phone for a little bit, I will always try to come back and try to discuss if I can. But yeah, I guess until the next video.